Hi, Zizaran here with a new video for 3.17, and this is going to be a video talking about the new Forbidden Flame Jewel, which is going to be a new pinnacle chase item in the upcoming Path of Exile expansion. If you're wondering what it does, well, as you can see here on the example, allows Master Surgeon if you have the matching modifier on Forbidden Flesh. So that means that you need 2 of these jewels, and they're limited to 1 each, so you can't get like multiple. And it basically allows you for 1 additional ascendancy point as long as you are that class. That means that if you are a Marauder, you cannot get a Ranger like a Pathfinder ascendancy. But if you are a Deadeye, you can get a Pathfinder ascendancy. Or if you're a Pathfinder, you can most likely get an additional Pathfinder point. So really, really good. 1 extra ascendancy point. And I'm here making a tier list. And we're going to do it class by class of which are the best ones. And we'll try to like explain it. Now, obviously, this is just like my take on it. Other people might have a different one, but it sounds very strong and I'm very excited about it. So first, let's look at Marauder. And obviously, there's a lot of room here. Some that are like maybe meshing lines and stuff, but at the S tier, I picked Aspect of Carnage. This is usable on absolutely everything, and it's obviously insane. I would say it's the single best one, the one that would be the most exciting to get. It's just straight up 40% more damage. If you're softcore, it has no downside, and if you're hardcore, then obviously that is pretty scary, but you would still use it. It's very, very nice. It's just 40% more damage. Undeniable as well, incredibly strong. I'm a big fan of Undeniable. This is basically, it's the one that gives you 500 flat accuracy, attack speed, and accuracy rating equals to twice your strength. So this allows for an insanely strong build. You can do an accuracy stacker berserker, which would be absolutely insane. And there are obviously so many attack builds in Marauder that it's very easy to struggle. And you would also get a lot of attack speed. This is maybe also an A tier, but it is just so strong, and the idea of doing that build would be insane. Tesalio, I was playing around with a little bit, like, is it A tier, is it B tier? But I actually realized it is S tier, because the amount of like room the 100% fire rest gives you on your gear, in addition to all the other stuff, is just absolutely insane. It frees up so much where you can just get so much more damage and build enabling mods in different spots. It also allows for doing more complicated things like the Legion Jewels Ibaqua a lot easier. And it's 20% fist damage taken from it as fire, which means that you can go for even less fist mitigation, and you get 20% life recovery all the time and unaffected by Ignite, which lets you use Fulcrum and stuff like that. So those are the 3 S tier, 1 from each Ascendancy, and they're insanely strong. Next up, we have Valaco, which is the one that is like regen per endurance charge, and it enables for easy max endurance charges on everything. So it's insanely strong. Yeah, basically free endurance charges on anything. If you have a way to ditch an endurance charge, it will be 15% more damage as well, and it is max endurance charge and regen. This is obviously good on everything, and that's sort of I've put them higher up if they're sort of like doable for everything. Unrelenting as well. Honestly, I put it so high up, a little bit biased by being hardcore, but it's so much fist mitigation, so much chaos mitigation, and ele mitigation. People on software would probably value it less, but I think it's so insanely nice. Next up, we have Hinakura. Insanely strong for anyone doing like strength stacking. And normally this is done with a Brutus Lid Sprinkler. Unflinching. It's like, this is replaceable a little bit by doing the small armor cluster thing, but you don't always have room for that. And you also get +1 max endurance charge in addition to that. So it's more like 5 points, 6 points. As well as you have a chance for it to like go up to full. It's just so nice. Blitz charges, insanely strong for any attack build. And yeah, just amazing. Unbreakable, kind of underrated in my opinion. Again, more of a hardcore thing, but it's so strong on any of the other ascendancies. Then you see the list of the rest here. I don't want to do too long because I want to do every ascendancy, but all of these, especially the chieftain ones, is not even that good for their own ascendancy, like to get an extra point. Like for example, Jug, pretty much everything except Unyielding is amazing. Unyielding is still okay for a build that really needs a lot of AoE and damage. It's definitely the worst one on Jug, but getting any of the other Jug ones is nice, even for a Juggernaut, because they just have so many points. And obviously things like Unstoppable, really, really nice. This can just go in any build and you're immune to like Uber Elder Slow, etc. Now the problem with the Chieftain one is that they're not really usable even on Chieftain as an extra point, because so many of them are kind of bad and they're very, very build specific. So I would say most of these are pretty good. Even the F tier ones, they are like usable and good and you'll be fairly happy. It's not like, for example, Ranger has things like Master Alchemist where you're going to have a nervous breakdown if you get. So I'd say most of the Marauder ones are pretty decent. They're not like ultra dog shit. But obviously there are some bad ones. And that concludes Marauder. All right, and now we are looking at the Templar one. So with Radiant Faith, that's the, kind of like Mana Guardian one. Where you gain max ES equal to 10% of your... Like, you can use this on both Hyro and Inquisitor to make some really, really strong builds and make aura stacking, or just using a lot of auras and mana very strong. So this one is maybe A tier or S tier, but it's very, very strong. There's so much build potential with using that in Inquisitor or Hyro build, because there's not necessarily that many other Guardian nodes that you would need to care about. So being able to transfer that to a new Ascendancy, very strong. Righteous Providence, just absolutely a very clear candidate for S tier. That's the 50 strength and crit per lowest of the strength. So absolutely insane. Makes making stat stackers even easier. And yeah, insane. Just very clear S tier. Inevitable Judgment as well. Crit strikes. So you can do a super powered Hierophant, or like not as usable on Guardian. Guardian ones are generally lower down as well, but make an insanely strong Hierophant with ignoring crit, or getting an extra point on Inquisitor. Obviously not bad as well. Next up, Pious Path. Honestly, almost for me the strongest. I feel like there's so many ways to get Consecrated Ground, whether you get it on a chest or from potions with Flagellant, or a Zealotry or something like that. There's so many good ways to get that, and so strong. Getting the life regen, the linger still, and increased effect, insanely strong. Divine Guidance opens up for really, really strong mom on, obviously you can already get an extra points for Hyro. I don't rate that very high because I'm not a big fan of the extra points on Hyro in general, but just having that for Inquisitor, really, really strong. Sanctuary of Thought, like the 25% mana restoration, the mana is extra as well. And obviously still, Archmage builds are still fairly strong at the high level. They're pretty hard to get going now, but obviously we saw things like, Alkaiser had a build with Pledge of Hands that's still really, really good at the high end. And things like this would make those kind of insane as well. With mana restoration efficiency and increased AoE per unreserved mana, could make some really, really interesting things with Ball Lightning. And 20% mana, a max mana is extra ES. Just very, very cool. I'm pretty excited about Sanctuary of Thought. Pursuit of Faith, suddenly you have an Inquisitor with full powered totem nodes. Really, you don't necessarily need Ritual of Awakening, especially not on softcore. So Pursuit of Faith would be extremely exciting on an Inquisitor. I'm very hyped for that. And then next up, we have these four. Bastion of Hope is pretty good value for block, especially on hardcore. Instruments of Virtue, definitely getting buffed this league with Battle Mage because we were getting so much more damage effectiveness on spells. Augur of Penitence, maybe C tier, I don't know, but it is 16% more damage, which now after the gem nerf is basically an extra support gem, and you take less LA damage as well, and it is pretty good range on the nearby. And Conviction of Power, the reason it's not higher is not every build really needs power charges, and it's so easy to get minimum endurance charge on rings and amulets. I think it's pretty okay as B tier, and the rest is pretty self-explanatory. Sanctuary as well. I think it's so easy to get Consecrated Ground that I don't care that much about it. The others are, pretty decent. A lot of the F tier ones for Templar are actually not super usable. So different to Marauder, where some of them are just kind of like, you'd be sad if you get them. But most of them here are some really, really strong things for the Templar. Let's look a little bit at Witch, one of the really, really exciting ones, and it's going to have some insanely expensive jewels. Depends a little bit if you're softcore or hardcore, but I'd still say everything in the S tier is correct for softcore or hardcore. For myself, hardcore, Mistress of Sacrifice is by far the most insane thing. Especially on hardcore, it's going to be like 3 to 5 mirrors depending on the rarity, and it is your offering skills affect you and skill effect duration. It is absolutely insane, just completely busted node. Now, if you're playing softcore, some people might rate Profane Bloom above it. Obviously, just explosions are insane. 40% chance to explode, really, really good. speaks for itself. Shaper of Flames may be surprising to some people, but there's so many insane builds that you can do with this, and no longer you need to be elementalist. So you can do Black Flame, like Chaos Ignite, Lightning Ignite, Cold Ignite, Ignite. Like, this is so good. So I rate that a lot higher than the other Shaper skills. And then we have Malediction, which almost honestly is as much power as the others. It's the Malediction, which is 10% reduced damage and you do more, and an extra curse and curse effect. So just really, really strong. Next up, we have Unnatural Strength. I'm rating this really high just because, kind of similar to Elemancer, the fact that you can do Golemancer either on Necro, or you can do Golemancer on Elementalist with these. I rate the other Golem nodes slightly less, because if you're taking this and then doing a Necro, I'd rather have Elemancer, because you're most likely going to have more than 4 Golems, or at least 4, and then they both do +1 Golem, and you're most likely not going to have Golems dying if you're a Necromancer. So I think the Elemancer is better. Shaper Winter, I was going to rate this worse, but it's just the action speed makes you so tanky. It's so insanely strong. So I am a big fan of the Shaper Winter. Frigid Wake is really, really nice. You know, it blips the bosses with like the cold chill and a lot of damage, and it cannot be frozen. Is really, really nice for freeing up your Pantheon. Bastion of Elements, probably going to be rated a lot less high on softcore, but it's really, really good for extra tank on any witch, which obviously I value very high on hardcore. Other than that, it's just going lower and lower on all the other ones. I'm going to try to keep it to a minimum of how much we explain on the lower ones, just to make the video shorter. Okay, so we're going to look at Shadow, and honestly, I think it's the one I'm the least excited about so far to drop. It does have some really, really strong ones, but the ones that aren't really, really strong, like S or A tier, are kind of like very whatever, and I'd probably rather have any of the other Ascendancies I've looked at so far. So obviously we have Escape Artist, which is absolutely fucking busted, and there's going to be several strong Saboteur builds like Seismic Trap and stuff. This late, even though it's getting nerfed, is still really strong. So being able to get that much ES and evasion from your chest and helmet, like, that's actually really, really nice, and actually opens up for a lot of builds on both Saboteur and Assassin, or it's just, you know, a okay free one. And then we have Born in the Shadow, which is just insane tank. Mostly you're going to have a lot of evasion, so the blind is really, really good, and 15% reduced damage from blinded enemies, and blinding everything on hit and nearby. Just very strong, easy S tier. Mistwalker, self-explanatory. The elusive is insanely strong, and we have Deadly Infusion for base crit and crit multi. And we have Weave the Arcane, just really, really good with so much attack speed, recover mana, and movement skills not costing mana, as well as increased mana, making it really good for Minor Matter. Swift Killer, absolutely insane, with +2 charges and charge generation for both, and increased damage. So really, really good. Charges on kill or while channeling. And Patient Reaper, probably the biggest quality of life while mapping, with ES life and mana on kill and higher recovery rate. So just absolutely amazing. And then we have like some other ones going forward as well. And sadly, a lot of the Saboteur ones are placed in F tier, because you're probably only using this if you're a Saboteur and you don't really need extra points. So they're kind of bad. But I think this kind of sums up Saboteur, or sorry, Shadow in general. Okay, we're going to look at Ranger, and Ranger does have a pretty okay mix between some. It has one of the strongest nodes in the entire skill tree, which is Master Surgeon, and this gives you the 6% life when you use a flask. And we can quickly explain, you use the 7 charges when you're hit by an enemy, and then you have the use flask charges on full, making it insanely strong. We can give a quick example of why that is so strong, because I know a lot of people get confused by that. And you can see here that like you probably take like 10 to 15k damage and instantly go back up to full. Just means that you cannot get killed by rapid hits, and the only thing that can kill your build is either one-shots or degens. So just insanely strong. And next up we have Gathering Winds. Obviously Tailwind, just really, really good. You want that on everything, one of the best things. Ricochet for the +1 chain, insanely strong. Gonna move Endless Munition up to S tier as well, just +2 proj, insanely strong for anything. Next up we have Master Toxicist, which is basically poison prolif and just increased poison damage as well. Really, really good. Big fan of that. And then Quartz Infusion, really strong, frees up so much of your gear and gives you perma-phasing for no investment. Definitely worth the 2 points. So strong. 40% spell suppression makes it so much easier to use like different uniques and stuff. And you can easily, yeah, use, for example, a Sappho's Frame or something for even more tank. Avatar of the Slaughter, honestly, big fan of this one. Makes really, really strong Deadeyes and makes me want to invest into Frenzy Charges even more on a Deadeye. Avatar of the Chase, honestly, it kind of, actually, I think I'm going to promote it to A tier. 100% onslaught effect and 10% more chance to evade, making your evasion that much stronger. And obviously, it's fairly easy to get onslaught in a lot of ways. Avatar of the Veil, honestly, almost being promoted to A as well. Just so strong. 50% avoid ailments while phasing. Is very easy to get 100% ailment immunity on this. And we also have the minus 20 pen to nearby. So very, very strong node. Could definitely be an A as well. And then other than that, we just have weaker and weaker nodes. I made a new tier just for this, for Master Alchemist. It is absolutely ridiculous how bad of an ascendancy point Master Alchemist is. And it is absolutely insane that this actually exists. It is by far the worst ascendancy point that just exists. It would never be worth an ascendancy point, and it would never be worth 2 jewel slots to get this working. Obviously, it's remove elemental ailments when you use the flask, which is just worse than being immune in every way, and 20% chance to freeze, shock, or ignite. It is absolutely awful. It is also worth mentioning focal point is being buffed, and it could be really, really good with the new mark on hit gem, and it like makes it move when you kill something. Now, obviously, can have more than 1 mark even with this, I think, but still pretty good. Ranger overall, pretty mixed. Obviously, there are some really, really strong things. I would definitely prefer getting something like, you know, a witch or a Templar jewel instead. Okay, and next up we have Duelist, which I honestly thought was going to be slightly better. I thought I would have like a lot less D and F tier skills. Obviously, also this is still kind of hardcore biased, but hey. Fortitude is honestly insane, especially for a champion, because the node before Unstoppable Hero is kind of whatever. Obviously, the stun immunity is nice, but you don't necessarily need to take this. And if you don't take this, you get to kind of just take everything as a champion. Like, you free up so many. You basically get 2 extra ascendancy points. And you can get stun immune in other places too. So, honestly, the Fortitude one, just absolutely insane. First to strike, last to fall is just so nice to slap in on any build, right? It's just so nice to have that adrenaline safety barrier there, and intimidating enemies throwing full life. It's just really, really nice, right? You just get 10% more damage plus all the adrenaline stuff. Arena Challenger is so insane. It's a fun multiplier, honestly. I think this might be my favorite one to get. Fortitude is obviously insane, but Arena Challenger is basically the same as it's saying 20% more fun multiplier. It is a more multiplier to not just your attack speed, but also your movement speed. So you might have seen sometimes like gladiators just jump, 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 jump. That's generally the ones that have the Arena Challenger, so it's insanely strong. Next up, we have Master of Metal. You could do some really, really strong Impale builds on other things than Champion with this. And it's just, yeah, obviously Impale, very, very good. Next up, we have Brutal Fervor as well, which is the Slayer Overleech. And obviously this is absolutely insane, and you would love this for Champion builds and Gladiator builds. The only reason I put Gratuitous Violence on A is maybe S tier, but it's also like, it's so hard to get bleed chance in a good way. It's very hard to get 100% chance to bleed without the node before, and the node before is kind of Pepega Clap. It's not that great in my opinion. So it's a little unfortunate that it's so hard to get bleed chance. If something like Corrupting Fever actually bled the monster, Gratuitous Violence would be S+ tier. Overwhelm, I'm a big fan. Just getting a base crit of 8 and so much more crit multi and negative crit multi on enemy monsters, so you're safer from crits, which is one of the most dangerous things in Path of Exile. Absolutely love it. And then we have Masterful Form, which is so much extra endurance charges, it makes frenzy stacking twice as worth. And especially with the Farrell's Fur Chest. And then next up we have the Reigning Veteran. I really like Max Block, obviously, that's so huge. And Inspirational, pretty good as well. So that's like the main ones that were really good. A lot of the other ones not as exciting or don't work that much on their own. So that's pretty much all the ascendancies. And again, remember, this is all to do with the new jewel. I'm not rating the ascendancies at all. I'm just rating like how good would these be on the jewel. And I think it's going to be a very exciting jewel. Now, do remember, most likely never going to find these on Soul Fun, and even on Trade League, they are going to be insanely hard to get one of both. And we're going to probably avoid doing Scion. We don't fully know how Scion is going to work with having 2 of her own ascendancy, but obviously Scion is going to have the same. It's going to be like requires class Scion, and then it's going to do, you know, you can be Elementalist, an Assassin, and maybe Juggernaut. So Scion is going to be even more powerful, but we don't know. Can you be Elementalist and Occultist and then Assassin? That's what we don't know. But Scion seems like it's going to be by far the most powerful one. So either way, hope you guys enjoyed the tier list video. Comment down below if you want more things like this or different tier lists. So if you liked the video, more importantly, try to die less than I do.